Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Go Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Sports Talk with RNJ. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio. And last night was the second week of the college football playoff rankings. And I'll let Justin go first. I'll let you go first. I mean, as you said, it's been very, very, very similar to the AP poll. You said it last week, very similar to the AP poll. What are your thoughts on it this week?
It's still, kind of similar to the AP poll. For this week, I was a little surprised to see Georgia drop all the way down to 12. I thought they'd still stay ahead of Ole Miss, even with the win that Ole Miss just had over the weekend. I thought maybe because Ole Miss had lost again in Kentucky, I thought they'd still be above them. Thought maybe Miami could have dropped a little bit more, but I guess they're okay there at 9. More in the back end, I don't really like how LSU and Missouri are still in. I don't think those are top 25 teams, but they're still up there. So for me, that was kind of the big kind of takeaways there. Oh, the last one is Boise. They really don't want Boise to get a home game in the first round because they only see 35,000. So they're going to try to keep them right around there so that in hopes that they go on the road, for the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. My biggest takeaways from it was obviously Georgia being out. Georgia should not be out. Georgia should be out. There's other teams that should be out. I mean, there's 2 others I see ahead of them that should be out. First, why does Miami fall 4 spots and Georgia falls 9 spots? That makes no sense. Miami, I'm telling you, defensively, they're not good. They're not. I know they got Cam Ward, who struggled last week, but they're not good defensively. They should be out of this thing. I'm sorry. Miami should be out. Miami should not be ahead of Georgia. I don't care if they have 1 loss. Georgia is one of the toughest schedules in the country. Miami should be out. Miami should definitely be out of this. And I didn't say this last week, but Notre Dame's too high. Notre Dame's too high for losing to Northern Illinois. They should be behind the SEC schools. They're too high for losing to Northern Illinois. That loss should the committee should be giving that loss, should be putting that loss more into consideration. So I would definitely have Georgia ahead of Notre Dame in Miami because the eye test is, I know if they played, Miami would have the better quarterback, but Georgia's the better team, and Georgia's clearly a better team than Notre Dame. That's what the eye test. If they played, they would prove that.
Notre Dame's playing a lot better. I will give them. I did not think they'd be sitting in the playoffs right now after the loss, but I know the schedule hasn't been great, but they've taken care of business against everybody. We really won't see them be tested until the playoffs. So because USC now is a dumpster, USC is a mess, and I would love to see Army beat them. I just don't think Army's got the bodies in the trenches to be able to handle Notre Dame. I do think they're better than Navy though, but. So Notre Dame, I get it because I know Illinois is a bad loss. It's not a great football team. The Miami, they probably still want an ACC champ to sit around 9 to make it look a little better. Could you say SMU should be ahead of Miami? You could make a case for that.
I don't think either should be. I don't think either should be. Just give
one of them got to get in.
But
One of them's got to get in.
They just have whoever wins, they're in. Okay, yeah, but that it makes sense because when one of those other teams be out, well, then have Notre Dame be the team that's out. I'm sorry. I mean, Georgia should not be out of this thing.
I do think I was a little surprised to see them, as I mentioned, behind Ole Miss. They're not playing well right now. Like I get it on paper, like
Look
they should
at
be
their
pretty good, but
schedule, though. I know they're not as good as other Georgia teams. I get it, but look at their schedule. Their schedule has been brutal this year. They won at Texas, who they have number 3 overall. They won at Texas by 2 scores. They had to go to Alabama, they had to go to Texas, and they had to go to Oxford. Those are 3 brutal road games for them. They should definitely be in the playoff. I think that's ridiculous. Georgia isn't in the playoff.
No, it is. Yeah, that Texas win's very impressive. That's what I thought we would see from Georgia. They did give up 31 points to a very bad Mississippi State team, like very bad. That should be held against them a little bit. And then that Ole Miss game, they got outplayed the final 55 minutes or so of that football game, and they got outplayed badly. I think that's kind of where, because they have not played great pretty much since that Texas game. And besides that, other than the second half against Clemson, they have not looked dominant in most of their games besides Texas and the second half of Clemson. Other than, I guess you can even say the second half of Bama because they were down 28-0. But the eye test they've looked great at times. They've been very inconsistent.
Yeah, I get it. I get they've been inconsistent, but they should still be a playoff team. To me, there's no way they should be a playoff team. And another thing I bothered me is, how was Indiana ahead of Tennessee? Indiana has played no one, and they almost lost to Michigan last week. Indiana has played no one all year. How are they ahead of Tennessee? How are they ahead of Tennessee, who beat Alabama? I know they have a loss, but they play in a tougher conference. Tennessee is a better team than Indiana and BYU. Those 2 teams should not be ahead of Tennessee.
I think Tennessee, though, are they that? They've looked great against Chattanooga, NC
they
State.
Beat Alabama. They did beat Alabama. I know they lost to Arkansas, but they did beat Alabama.
Both those teams did not deserve to win that football game. Somebody had to win, and both those teams were not very deserving. I know they did win, but they both looked awful. Like, again, against a bad Mississippi State team, I know Nico didn't play in the second half, but they had a lot of drop passes. Like, they haven't really been impressive at all. They only averaged like 5 yards a play in the SEC. Like, their defense is awesome. Offensively, it's a mess right now. So they both, Tennessee, but Indiana, BYU are both undefeated. So I get those 2 being ahead there. Being ahead of Tennessee because they are taking care of business. I know the schedules aren't great, but I get it with Tennessee. They're already won. I don't think it's a very good football team.
I think they got one of the best defensive players. I think with Pierce, they got one of the best defensive players in the country. They got one of the best defensive players in the country. Nico has been good at times. Yes, he struggled, but he's been good at times. I know they've struggled. I know they struggled against Florida. I know they lost to Arkansas, but they beat Alabama. Who has Indiana beaten? And at least BYU's beaten SMU. And they crushed Kansas State. Who has Indiana beaten? They've beaten no one. I know Cignetti has done a really good job. Is probably going to win Coach of the Year. But who have they beaten? And I'll guarantee you, if they play well against Ohio State, I'll stop talking about them and stop. I'll stop criticizing them. But who have they beaten this year? They've beaten no one. They have no business being ahead of Tennessee.
And I shouldn't say Tennessee's not a good football team. Like they're a good team. I think they're okay where they are. And yeah, I know Indiana hasn't really beat anybody besides Michigan, but at least they're blowing everybody out pretty much. I know they did against Michigan. That's the thing. Like Tennessee's not doing that. They won by 10 against a bad Kentucky team. They only won by 19 against a bad Mississippi State team. Florida took them to overtime at home on a Saturday night. Like that's not impressive. So Indiana, I do think looked more impressive, even though their schedule hasn't been great. And it will be interesting. I think Indiana is like a 10-point dog next week at Ohio State. Like if they keep it within there, I got no problem. If they lose and they lose badly, trust me, I don't think you're going to see Indiana top 12. I'd be surprised. So I think we're going to find out in a week in 2 weeks where Indiana really is and what the committee really thinks of them. So and BYU, yeah, the Big 12 is very balanced. So like they're not killing everybody, but they're all kind of the same level. Like I think BYU is like a top 15 to top 20 team. Like, I don't think they're great. They're finding ways to win. Congrats. We're not really convincing though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because last week they very easily should have lost to Utah.
Yeah.
They were lucky they didn't lose to Utah. They ended up winning that in the game-winning field goal. So yeah, they've been a little fortunate to be undefeated right now. But look at some of the matchups. You got again Ohio State, Boise State, same matchup as last week. Penn State, and let me tell you, if they win out, they're going to be in that 5-6 range and getting that home game in Happy Valley. They got Ole Miss rematch of the Sugar Bowl. Was it Connor Sugar Bowl?
Cheer.
We said
I think it was Sugar.
it might have been the Sugar Bowl,
Yeah, Sugar.
last year. Yeah, rematch of the Sugar Bowl last year between Ole Miss and Penn State. They'll be going to Happy Valley. Alabama, are they actually going to play in Bloomington if they make it?
Oh, no, they're not going to make them.
It's going to be at Lucas.
I'd be
It's going to be at
great.
Lucas Oil. It's going to be at Lucas Oil, and Alabama will beat them by 2 scores at Lucas Oil. If I'm Indiana, I'd want to play the game in Bloomington, but they won't. They probably won't let them.
I would hope they do let them. I don't know if they have that power, and it depends when, because are the Colts holding that weekend? The Colts may have. I don't know.
Well,
I know it's either Friday or
I
know it's
checked
either
if they're
Friday
home
or
not.
Saturday,
Yeah.
but
I haven't checked.
so I don't know. I don't know if that's possible, but
Yeah.
I would be great. This is kind of the part of the first round that's gonna be great, because we haven't seen SEC teams have to go up to 30-degree weather and go play in those environments. Like,
Yeah, that's what Greg McElroy said last night. That's what Greg McElroy said last night on the selection show.
Yeah, it'd be different, because a lot of those guys from the South, they probably don't see the cold very much, and that Indian environment would be awesome. So they see them get a home game. So I'm rooting for them. I hope they get a playoff game. I'd love to see an SEC team have to go in that environment, and love to see them get knocked off.
Yeah, that would be fun to see an SEC team have to go in that environment. But now, speaking of the SEC, we got the biggest game of the week in the SEC. You got Tennessee taking on Georgia, and I think this is going to be a close, competitive game. But you've said it with Tennessee; they can't score enough points. I think that's going to be the thing here. I think Georgia's going to struggle to score too. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think both teams. I think Tennessee. I think they'll contain. Georgia's going to contain Sampson. I think that Georgia I think Tennessee will contain ETN. I think it'll be a low-scoring game where I think the team that turns the ball over the least is going to win. And I think Georgia won't turn it over as much as Tennessee, and that's why I'm going Georgia here. I'm going 20-13, low-scoring. I'm going 20-13 Georgia. But Justin, can Tennessee knock out? Can Tennessee end Georgia's hopes for the SEC championship game and the college football playoff?
No, I got the dogs here as well. I got them 20-16. Nico left the first half, or he left at halftime. It was like concussion-like symptoms. I think it sounded like he did practice yesterday, so I think he's going to go. If not, their backup behind him has not played he's a senior and he hasn't played much at all. And he threw that bad interception against Bama when Nico missed like 2 plays. So if he doesn't go, I don't know how Tennessee's going to score many points in this one. But, Tennessee can do what Ole Miss did and just get pressure on Beck with James Pierce and that defensive front, and because that Georgia offensive line has not looked great at times this year, and they can't run the football. So if Tennessee can make them one-dimensional, make Beck throw the ball 45 times, I think Tennessee has a chance in this one. But I'm expecting the Georgia defense to play well. And Tennessee's offense is, Kirby's done a really good job against the Tennessee teams where they've had talent and they've been they put up numbers, and this year's not that type of team. So I think Georgia's defense plays well in this one and get the win at home.
The big question, too, going into this game is the winner of this game in the playoff? Is the winner of this game comfortably in the playoff? And I'm going to say yes, because if Tennessee wins, I think they're in. And looking at their remaining schedule, there's a good chance they'll probably get to the SEC championship game. And if Georgia wins, they might not get to the SEC championship game, but I think they're in because that's a win over Tennessee. And I think I know it'd be crazy because you have Bama beating Georgia beating Tennessee, so you get that mess. But I think Tennessee drops because they would probably have, with the Arkansas loss, is not going to help them, and them not being impressive against Florida doesn't help them. So I think the winner of this game is in, because I don't think Georgia loses a game here on out. I think they finish 10-2 if they win this. And I think if Tennessee wins, they finish 11-1. So I do think the winner of this game is going to get in the playoff.
Yeah, I think so too. As long as Georgia doesn't play in the SEC title game, they lose. But they're making like Dentridge on, was it? I forget what show was on yesterday. She was already making the case that a 9-3 SEC team probably going to get in. So maybe Georgia would be that team. So as long as they don't stumble, because they'll beat UMass and they should beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's been playing better. Like, that's a game they better
Miami,
be careful in.
Yep.
Yeah. So that Brett Key's he's been really good against top 25 teams. But so I think Georgia would be able to get in, and yeah, if Tennessee somehow wins. Yeah, at Vandy could be tricky if they're not careful, but I think they get out of there okay. But
Yeah, because Vandy beat
um,
Alabama.
yeah, they did, and they only lost by 3 to Texas. They've been feisty and they've kept games close. So I would think the winners of this game should pretty much be safe in the playoffs.
And I'll tell you one thing about the SEC title game. If a team has 2 losses outside of LSU, if LSU somehow gets in and loses the SEC title game, they shouldn't get in. If an SEC team has 2 losses and a third loss is the title game, they should get in anyways. There's no way they should penalize a team from playing in a conference championship game.
Yeah, I guess as long as it's a close game.
Yep.
I see your as long as it's close, as long as they go blown out, I see your case that that they should probably get in because it would be a quality loss in a neutral site. So yeah, depending on what else happens, if there is a a 3-loss SEC team that loses a championship game, I could definitely see them getting in depending on what else happens and it's a close game.
Yeah, I agree. I think a 3-loss SEC team should definitely get. If they make the championship game, they should definitely get. You should not get penalized for making your conference championship game. That should not happen. There's no way it should happen. So it'll be an interesting game this week between Georgia and Tennessee in Athens. But we'll move on to another SEC game in Fayetteville as Texas heads to Arkansas for a noon game, 11 o'clock their time, a noon game to face Arkansas. I think Texas wins this. I think they win it big again. I think Ewers says another big game. You saw what happened with Ole Miss to that Arkansas defense. I think Quinn Ewers is going to do close to the same thing. I think Arkansas will score a little bit, but it won't be enough. I got Arkansas here 45-24, but can Arkansas upset Texas and hand them their second SEC loss?
I don't think so. That Arkansas game you mentioned against Ole Miss, I think they gave up 63. I know they're coming off the bye here. It felt like a team that may have shut it down. I know there's a bunch of injuries that happened that game. And like Taylor Green missed some time in that one, but Texas looked dominant last week against Florida. I think they kind of do the same this week. I got it 41-17. Arkansas was pesky early, but I don't know how much is left in the tank for this Arkansas team.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I know they upset Tennessee, but I don't think they're upsetting Texas on Saturday afternoon. Colorado is in a great spot right now. They're in a great spot. They control their own destiny. If they win out, they play in the Big 12 championship game. If they win that, they're in the playoff. They control their own destiny, and they got Utah this week, and Utah's offense just isn't good. Their offense isn't good. I know their defense is still pretty good, but I think Travis Hunter. I think Shedeur Sanders has a big week. Travis Hunter has a big week. I think Colorado wins this. I got to win it by 2 scores. I'm telling you, Deion Sanders, you got to give him credit. He's done a really good job with this Colorado team. I know you're not the biggest fan. He's done a really good job with this Colorado team this year, and I got them winning this one, and I got them winning it. I got them winning 27-13 over Utah. But Justin, can Utah hand Colorado their second loss in the Big 12?
I don't think so. I got the Bucks as well, 35-17. Yeah, they've gotten this team's down better in the trenches. This team very easily could have lost to North Dakota State week 1. We saw what happened week 2 against Nebraska. And and their running game still isn't great. I think it's a little bit better than it was at the beginning of the year, but and Shedeur's playing, he's gotten better, and Travis Hunter should win the MVP or should win the Heisman if he continues to keeps playing as many snaps as he has. In this one too, like I don't know how Utah gets off the mat after the way they lost last week. I don't know why that AD was as mad as he was because I did think that was a good holding call.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's just taking out frustrations from the entire year. And Isaac Wilson's gonna be like a quarterback, so I'm just expecting like Utah to run Wildcat in this one. I'd be very, very surprised if Colorado lost this one. I have them winning 35-17.
Yeah, I think Colorado. Yeah, I think Colorado is going to make it. I think they're going to play BYU in the championship game. Look at their schedule. I think they're going to play BYU in the championship game.
They better be careful. Kansas is playing better. That's a trap game next week.
I saw it was weird. I saw Kansas was only a 3-point underdog at BYU. That was weird.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. I think you might know what side I'm on now.
Okay, gotcha. But
that's a Big 12 though. It's all these teams are very similar, like in rankings wise. I feel so. Yeah. Colorado's got a shot. Next week's a tough one, I think, for them.
Oh, it could be. But Deion Sanders done a really good job with this Colorado team. Moving on to the ACC, we got Clemson and Pitt. Pitt's lost 2 in a row. You got Clemson, who bounced back last week, beat Virginia Tech, and I think Clemson wins this one by 2 scores. I think Kubik plays well. I think Mafi plays well. I think Clemson stays in the ACC race and still keeps their hopes to win the ACC alive. And I think they beat Pitt here. I got them 27-17 over Pitt. But Justin, can Pitt and Clemson's hopes to win the ACC?
No, I got Tigers here as well. They got off to a slow start last week. They got down 7-0, but had a really good second half there, and they put up 24 straight, I believe it was. And Pitt's offense right now has looked like it's really been a mess since ACC conference started, and I think that kind of continues again. I know Pat Narduzzi's beat Clemson twice. I don't think it's a happen. I think Kate Klubnik shreds the secondary of Pittsburgh. I think they win this one 38-21.
Yeah, I think Clemson wins as well. We'll move on to a couple games in the Big Ten, which are pretty obvious. You got Ohio State against Northwestern. This should be a blowout. I think Ohio State. This is at Wrigley, right?
Yes, it is at Wrigley.
At Wrigley Field. So, but there'll be probably more Ohio State fans than Northwestern fans, I bet, because it's cool to watch it. They probably want to watch a college football game at Wrigley. I got Ohio State big here. I got them 41-10 over. I think Junkins has a big day. I think Howard is a big day. I think Jeremiah Smith is a big day against Northwestern. I'm going 41-10 Northwestern. Justin, I assume you got the same.
Yeah, I think you meant Ohio State, not Northwestern.
No. I mean Northwest. I mean Ohio State. Yes, I mean Ohio State. 41-10 Ohio State.
Yeah, I figure that too, man. I have Ohio State 35-7. Yeah, at Wrigley, it's a pretty cool scene. Usually, you can only both teams on the same sidelines.
Really?
So
Wow.
it's weird, and I think you can only go one way. I know it used to be like that, but see if it's still like that. But yeah, I think Ohio State takes care of business. Northwestern's defense might keep them in it early, but their offense is still kind of a mess, and it's not great. So I think Northwestern may save this thing early with their defense, but I think Ohio State kind of takes care of the business and kind of wins handily in this one.
Another game in the Big Ten between Penn State and Purdue, and I think this is another blowout. I think Penn State with Singleton and with Katron Allen and with Drew Aller. Purdue is terrible. They're one of the worst teams in college football this year. I think this is big. I'm going 45-10 Penn State over Purdue. Justin, I assume you got the same here as well.
Yeah, I got 38-3 Penn State here. Yeah, Purdue's bad. Them and Florida State should have to play in like the worst of the Power Four bowl game or something. Those two, probably the worst Power Four conference teams out there. And Purdue in 3 games, Ohio State, Oregon, and Notre Dame, they've scored 7 points total. I'd be surprised if they get more than 7 this week against Penn State. I think Drew Aller plays well. I think those wide receivers have a big game. I think the running game is affected this week. I think Penn State does whatever they want, and I think James Franklin pours it on Purdue this week on a team we'll see if Ryan Walter comes back to that coach.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't after the season they're having. But yeah, this should be an easy win for Penn State. I think really the toughest game is going to be that Minnesota. I think Minnesota game will be a little bit of a trap game.
Yeah,
that'll be a little bit of a trap game, because they're on the road. They should beat Maryland. They should beat Purdue, but that Minnesota game, that could cost them. If they lose to Minnesota, that would be the game that would cost them because they've struggled at Minnesota. I remember, a couple of years ago, Minnesota was better than that team when they had Rashard Bateman about 5 years ago. I remember that was their last trip, I think, to Minnesota. They got beat. So, I mean, that game scares you a little bit, but Penn State is definitely in good shape to make the playoffs and host a game.
Yeah, they are right now. And Minnesota, Max Brosmer's playing a lot better. They've kind of figured out the offense. Minnesota's on the bye this week too, so they're prepping. I know they came off a bad loss to Rutgers on the road last week, but yeah, PJ Fleck and that team's playing better. So yeah, that's going to be a tough one next week up there in Minnesota. That PJ Fleck's gonna have those guys fired up.
Oh, he definitely will. He definitely will for that game. Now we'll move on to Notre Dame as they face Virginia, and I think it's another game where Notre Dame cruises. I think they cruise against another AC opponent. Riley Leonard has a big game. Love runs the ball well. I'm going Notre Dame here, 31-10 over Virginia. But can UVA ruin just like Northern Illinois early in the year? Can UVA ruin Notre Dame's playoff hopes?
I don't think so. I got the Irish here 35-10. They've taken care of business the last couple of weeks. And I think Notre Dame's going to be able to do what they want here offensively. Riley Leonard's looked a lot better. I think he wasn't healthy to begin the year. I think, maybe struggled to kind of learn the offense. And I think they figured it out. That running game's been better. Tony Elliott's done a nice job at Virginia. They got, they're 5-4. It's a kind of big year to show some improvement they have. But I do think they're going to show going up to South Bend this week and be able to kind of do much against that Notre Dame defense this week.
Alrighty, we got the night games, and we start in the Big Ten with Oregon and Wisconsin. And I think Oregon wins this. They win it by 2 scores. Maybe Wisconsin stays in it early because it's Saturday night at Camp Randall. But I think that Dylan Gabriel is another big game, continues to stay hot. I think Wisconsin turns the ball over a couple times. I got Oregon here to stay number 1. I got them winning at 34-17. But Justin, could it be a special Saturday night at Camp Randall and with them knocking off the number 1 team in the country?
I don't think so. I don't know if they're gonna have that magic this week. I got the Ducks as well, 34-13. It's the 8th straight game here for the Ducks before their bye next week. So I I think they jump on Wisconsin early and kind of just cruise, to a victory this week. For Wisconsin, their secondary is not bad. If you can kind of keep Oregon to limit their yak, that's kind of the big thing with the Ducks. That's kind of where they make their big chunk plays. That's gonna be big. And last week, Maryland and even Michigan 2 weeks ago hit some big plays down the field in the passing game against Oregon. So if Locke can do that, maybe Wisconsin's got a shot in this one. But I do expect Oregon here to just take care of business, get ready to go into the bye to face Washington, and wrap up the season.
Yeah, Oregon's in really good shape. It looks like they'll be facing either Ohio State or Ohio State or Indiana, whoever wins that game next week in Indianapolis on December 7th. But we will move on to the Big 12. A couple interesting games. The Big 12 will start both with Kansas teams. Will start though in Manhattan with Arizona State and Kansas State. Kind of an elimination game. You got 2 loss teams here. I think the loser is out of the Big 12 race. So, but I think I think it's going to be. I think Arizona State might score a little bit, but I think Giddens going to be too much for Arizona State's defense. That's why I got Kansas State staying in the race and winning this one 30-20. But Justin, can Arizona State stay in the Big 12 race and knock Kansas State out of the Big 12 race?
I don't think so. I got the Wildcats 31-17. Kenny Dillingham, if not for Chris Ignetti, should win Coach of the Year. This team was picked last in the Big 12 this year. They're 7-2. And the mess that he took over for that Herm Edwards left him. He's done an unbelievable job. Cam Scadaboo, their running back, has been banged up with a shoulder injury. I think he's going to play. I don't know if he's 100% though. And both these teams as well, like they both, they both want to set up that running game to set up the passing game. And I think Kansas State at home is going to be able to have a little bit more success at that than Arizona State in this one. And I expect Kansas State, off the loss here and coming off a bye, I expect them to come in this one at home and play a really good football game to Arizona State.
I definitely could see that. I definitely could see. I definitely could see Kansas State playing well. I think Kansas State plays well and gets a win. Now we got the last game we'll talk about, and that's Kansas and BYU. Now you think this one's going to be close? I was kind of surprised with the line, it being a 3-point game there. But I think BYU pulls this one out. I think they pull it out. I think their defense plays well. I don't think they turn the ball over, and I think they win. I think they win at 24-17. But Justin, do you think the line's appropriate for this game?
Yeah, I'm going Rock Chalk Jayhawk here.
Wow.
31-27.
Wow.
Kansas has played better. Jalen Daniels he had 8-9 picks in the first 4 or 5 games this year. They're 3-6, Kansas, but this isn't a team that I don't think is going to quit because bowl games mean something to that program at Kansas. Again, I think I said it last week. Like Kansas has a chance to play spoiler here. They got Iowa State last week. I think they get BYU here. I'm a little worried against going BYU at night because Provo is it's always tough to go in there and get win at night there. But BYU just keeps asking to lose, and I think this is finally the week that Kansas gets them. I think Jalen Daniels plays well. Radsliff he's played better. He's starting to cut down the turnovers as well. But I think Kansas gets them. This team's really starting to play better. They've started to, there's a ton of close losses here for Kansas. And, if they find a way to win the Illinois game, the UNLV game, Kansas should be like 6-3, 7-2. And it's a much bigger game. So I got the Jayhawks in this one.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see if BYU stays undefeated. But before we wrap up the show, we're going to talk some college basketball. And last night was the Champions Classic. We'll start with the biggest game last night with Kentucky knocking off Duke 77-72. But we'll start with Duke. Cooper Flagg, 26 points. Should we expect Duke to get to the Final Four with them having the best, the player, the most hyped player, and probably the best player in the country, and a guy who didn't want to go to UConn, which is probably going to be a mistake? Should they be the best team in the country? Should Duke get to the Final Four? Should we expect Duke to get to the Final Four? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no because I just don't think John Shire is that good, and I think Alabama and UConn I think they're going to go back to the Final Four. And I don't think John Shire is he's not Coach K. He's good, but he's not Coach K. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I think this is a second weekend team, but what John Shire is a babysitter. He's not a coach.
Ooh, wow.
He's not. That's him and Calipari. They're both babysitters. You're telling me with the game on the line with a 17-year-old freshman who showed in that game that he's hesitant one-on-one at times to kind of figure out what move he wants to go to. You run two ISOs for him? That's not coaching. That's just so I don't so I don't think this Duke team's gonna prove that much. They have so much talent, and maybe they can erase that from Shire. I think maybe they're a little bit tougher than they were last year. They were physical last. The refs. I liked how the refs let them play last night, but they have all the talent to win it. I just think the coach holds them back.
Wow. And now moving this to Cooper Flagg. Should Cooper Flagg be the favorite to win Player of the Year? Do you think do you think right now he's the best player in college basketball, and do you think he should win Player of the Year?
I don't think he's going to have the stats to win Player of the Year because there's so many other. You got Kai Knipple on that team. You still have Proctor. You still have the big man out there as well. So I think he's not going to have the stats. I think Mark Sears is probably going to win it at Alabama, that guard, just because I think he's going to average over 20 a game. He's probably going to have a handful of assists. So because Duke has so much talent, I don't know if he's going to score like 19, 20 a night. I think Sears could win the Player of the Year, but I do think Cooper is the best player in the country.
Yeah, it's going to be close between him and Sears. I think it's going to be a battle between him and Sears. I do agree with you. I think Sears ultimately wins it because I think his team will have a little more success. I think Sears ultimately wins it. Now, last night last night was definitely Mark Post's biggest win at Kentucky. Starts the season 3-0. Kentucky's in a loaded SEC. What are the two-part question here? Can they compete in this tough SEC, and can they make a deep run in the tournament?
I think they can. For both, I think it's possible that they could. They're fun. I don't think Cal wins that game last night. I don't because I think if Cal's coaching, Duke probably finds a way to win that basketball game. They actually run sets. They don't just roll the balls out there and hey, we have the most talent. Jackson Robinson's probably the only NBA player on that roster. When have you ever? Since I've watched college basketball, Kentucky's just had 6-7 guys that go to the draft. That's not this team. It's a lot of really good college basketball players. That's all you need. You don't need 9 5-star freshmen to win you games. I can't stand Kentucky because they're fans, but I hate to say it, but they're fun to watch. Like it's actually enjoyable to watch Kentucky It was enjoyable to watch Kentucky last night. So the one worry I have is they rely so much on the 3-point shot that in a 1-game elimination tournament, you saw last year when Mark Pope was at BYU, they lose to Duquesne because they shot I think 20% from 3. That could happen any given day. So I wouldn't be shocked they lose in the first round, but I wouldn't be shocked they're sitting there in the Sweet 16 Elite 8. They're probably like a 5-ish seed, I would say, at the end of the year. But so anything could happen. But I do think that team could get to the second weekend. I would not be surprised. There's a lot of really good college guys on that team.
Yeah, I know they won last night, but I don't know. I think the conference is too deep. I think they're going to probably wind up getting like a 7 or 8 seed. So I think they're maybe win a tournament game and then get knocked out. It's just they're just, to me. I know a great win last night, but let's be real though. They were kind of at home playing in Atlanta. They were playing in Catlanta last night. Let's be honest. They were at home. So
a lot of Duke fans out there.
I know. I know.
Duke fans.
I know. But yeah. So, but I think this team. I think they'll win it. They'll win a game in the tournament, but I don't think they go. I don't think they get to the second weekend. I think they're like middle of the pack SEC, and I don't think they. I don't think they win a game in the tournament. I know. Yeah, I think they win one game, and then don't get to the second weekend.
I think that's possible. The SEC 2 so far, Alabama's hasn't looked great. We'll see him play Purdue. Auburn's looked good. I saw Tennessee play. I know they blew out Louisville. I saw him play an exhibition against Indiana. I was not that impressed. I don't know where the scoring's going to come from. Arkansas, you can forget about that. I was watching your Giants on my laptop so I could watch Arkansas Baylor replay on Saturday night. Calipari has no idea to beat his own. If anybody plays man against Arkansas, yeah, I can't help you because they just pass the ball perimeter. They don't penetrate at all. Cal just Cal. Anybody thinks that Cal was going to change at Arkansas is crazy. It's the same old guy, and I can't wait to see them lose in the first round. Yeah. I'm not sold on them. Florida's got a lot of issues with Ty Golden. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's some stuff behind the scenes right now. It's not great. And Ole Miss top 25. I really haven't seen them play much, so I can't give a full read on them yet. But I could see Kentucky because I think maybe there's an opening there for Kentucky to sneak past a couple of teams.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see there. But the first game in the other game of the Champions Classic, Kansas beats Michigan 77-69. And we'll start with Kansas. And the big question with them is, should they be the top-ranked team in the country? I know they got one of the best players in the country in Hunter Dickinson, but should they be the top-ranked team in the country? And this is an easy answer. No, they should not be. We all know who the number one team in the country should be. It resides, I know you might disagree, but it resides in the state of Connecticut. I don't know how you don't put UConn number one overall after winning back. I know they've lost 4 to 5 starters, but it's the best culture in college basketball. They've won back-to-back national titles. I respect Bill Self. He's the winningest coach at Kansas, but to me, they didn't win back-to-back championships. I know they're actually the last national champion outside of UConn. They won it in 2022. But no, they should not be the number one team in the country. And last night, they won, but they did not look like the number one team in the country. I'll tell you, UConn beats Michigan State by double digits. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Tom Izzo. I've been saying this for years. He's very overrated. He's a glorified Jim Boeheim to me in my eyes. But I know a lot of other people would disagree with me. But I again, we talk like how much more shooting is there on this Kansas team? They're starting 5. DeJuan Harris, he can't shoot from 3. KJ Adams can't shoot from 3. Hunter Dickinson, I know he went 1 for 1, but you're not guarding from 3. You have 3 guys in your starting lineup that you don't have to guard from the 3-point line in 2024. That's not going to work. I made fun of Indiana because that was the same thing Indiana had last year. Now, they have more talent than Indiana did last year. Now, Jeff Goodman may disagree with you because he thought Indiana had more talent than UConn, but shows you what Jeff Goodman knows. But I don't think I think this Kansas team more close to like 5th in the country. And Hunter Dickinson, on the defensive end, Hunter Dickinson, I know he was decent last night because Michigan State just they don't have a ton of talent. They just don't. But like he's not a good rim protector either. And I think Kevin McCullough is such a huge loss for him because he's such a good defensive piece. And if a guy gets by on the perimeter, Hunter Dickinson, he'll block a couple, but like he's not a great rim protector.
No. I think this is a really good team, and I don't think it should be the number one team in the country. It should be UConn. It should be Alabama. It should be UConn or Alabama. Should be the number one team in the country. Now moving to Michigan State. Now seeing that Purdue lost Zach Edey last year, there probably is an opening, and I don't think the league is it looks like the league is down. I think the league is really down. Does Michigan State have a chance to win this big? They competed last night with Izzo. He's a really good coach. Do they have a chance? They're not that talented. They're not as talented as the top teams, but do they have a chance to win this Big Ten?
They win the Big Ten. The Big Ten should not get more than 3 teams in because they were picked 5th, and I think 5th would be like a good. I'd be surprised they'll probably finish like 5th. This team's not talented. It's just I don't think there's talent. I don't think he has a big guy. Xavier Booker's probably his best, but he was awful last night. I saw them a month ago play Northern Michigan up there as Tom Izzo's homecoming. They won by like 20. Northern Michigan threw a zone at them, and I just was not. Their defense looked great, but they only scored like 65 points against a D2 team. They did not shoot well. And Jaden Akins, he had a really good he played well the first 2 games. The guy went 2 for 12 in that game. And was like minus 12 in the plus minus category. I don't think he's a good enough shooting guard. I don't think, Jeremy Fears is, we'll see what he turns into. But I think Tyson Walker is a big loss. I think he did a ton for that team last year. I think this Michigan State team's like an 8 to 10 seed. But they'll win their Thursday game at 12-15 in the first round of the NCAA tournament because they always do. But I don't think this team's very talented, and I don't think Izzo really elevates them.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. I think they'll make the tournament, but again, I think they lose in the first or second round. But that is going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about Week 12 of the NFL season. and week 13 of the college football season and the third week of the college football playoff rankings. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.